no glory for the faint of heart. We all stars, win or lose, we don't play the part. And when the going getting tough, I get to going hard. You bring your best and you know I'ma tear them apart. We made it survival, rival. I ain't got no time for anyone who ain't put in the work that I do. You ain't heard about it, think I'm gonna remind you. I've been out here doing what I say, it's what defines you. This is our time, hands to the sky. You already know, I ain't gotta tell them why. Hands to the sky, this is our time. You already know, I ain't gotta tell them why. This is our house. Yeah, and we can't put it down. This is our house.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Week 17 recap edition of the Rundown. Only one more episode of the regular NFL season, Justin. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. 1 week left.
I know.
Wow.
That's
It
insane.
all comes down to this.
It's insane.
Crazy
times indeed. Had a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, we had NBA history made and then promptly not made after another loss by the Detroit Pistons. You know, we had some breaking news in the NFL and we had some college football action going on. But why don't we start with our breaking news? Dolphins edge rusher Bradley Chubb has unfortunately torn his ACL and is out for the rest of the season. So a whole, 3 games for the Dolphins? Because I think, they've got the week that he got hurt, and then next week, and then the one playoff game that they're going to go to. And then, because, I don't trust Miami. But in all seriousness, this is a big loss for them. He's one of their better defensive pieces. And if they were going to have any hope of making a deep run in the playoffs, I feel like losing Bradley Chubb is not the way to do it. So,
No.
Cool. Well, then we had the Bears announced that, for some reason, Matt Eberflus will remain their head coach in the 2024-2025 season. He's 9-20.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
He's 9-27 or 10-27?
Something like that.
As the Bears head coach.
Does not make a whole lot of sense.
What are they doing? Yeah, I think it's obvious, too, that he doesn't work with Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields has looked good this year, but Justin Fields doesn't seem like his guy, right? Like,
Yeah. And, it just seems like the development of Fields hasn't been as quick as you want it, and it's because Eberflus is a defensive-minded head coach, so he's just not developing at the pace that you would want a, now going into his third year quarterback, is just not where you want it to be.
For sure. And, I think if you're going to be a defensive coach, then you need to be like a Mike Vrabel with like a prime Derrick Henry and a good defense, or, Sean McDermott when you have like a Brian Daboll and other people around that can make your offensive pieces better. But if you're going to be a defensive head coach and Chicago is where you're at, you're not really set up for success, I think.
No.
So I don't understand the move personally. But to me, this kind of makes me feel like Chicago is leaning more towards drafting Caleb Williams and moving on from Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it seems.
Yeah, just because, those two, Justin Fields and Eberflus, have butted heads a lot. So I feel like if they were going to keep Justin Fields, they would probably have moved on.
Yeah.
So, all right. Other breaking news, the 49ers and Ravens have each clinched the 1 seed in the playoffs. I don't know that this is really shocking to anyone. The Ravens have run over every single team that's good and have lost to some questionable teams, but Baltimore looks like I said last week they're going to win every title that is to be won in professional sports. The 49ers, meanwhile, as long as they can get out to a lead, look like they might do the same. So it'll be interesting to see how the playoffs shake out, but I don't think this really shocked anybody.
No, not really.
No. Moving on to college football. Florida State was very yappy after getting excluded from the college football playoff. And, I think we both kind of leaned on the side of they had an argument like, they went undefeated in the regular season. They won their conference championship, and then they got overstepped by Alabama. So what did they do to further their argument?
They put it to the side. No,
like half the team sat out of the bowl game because they either transferred or declared for the draft or just said, man, we didn't get in, so what's the freaking point? And so, naturally, they fielded their junior varsity team against Georgia, and Georgia dog walked them. The final score was 63-3, which is just rough. And my personal favorite thing is somehow they thought that furthered their argument that they were robbed. And the arguments that I saw were like, oh, well, we only sat out because we got screwed over, so we didn't have our starter, so that game meant nothing. I'm sorry, but you're the 5th best team playing the 6th best team, and what you're saying to me is that if you can't be number 1, it doesn't matter. But, like, there's some pride on the line, and I think what would have furthered their argument more is fielding their best team against Georgia, winning that game. I'm not saying that they would have, but you know what I mean? Like, winning that game and then saying, see, we told you. They lose.
Or at the very least, making it competitive.
Yeah, you lose 31-27. Okay, like, that's... But I saw UAB put up 30 points against Georgia. I would like to think that Florida State's 4th stringers could beat UAB.
I don't know about that now.
But I don't know about that now because they did that. But you'd like to think that UAB, whatever, or that Florida State, whatever team they field, could beat UAB. That was shameful.
Yeah. I will say, the one thing that I kind of took away from this game is that I think, after the rankings were revealed, I thought that everyone kind of thought, Florida State got robbed. Mm-hmm. They deserve to be in there. What more do they have to do? But, I honestly think the committee got it right.
I do too.
Given the games that we got, given the 2 games that we got, the 4 teams that we're in, given what happened in those games, I think the committee got it right. This is the best possible outcome you could have asked for as the committee.
I mean, let's look at the last, honestly, all of the history of the college football playoff. It's been in the semifinals. There's been one team that's just gotten absolutely margeldorfed. And then every single year. And then it feels like the championship game is the other semifinal.
Every other year.
Is like the semifinal. The other semifinal is always like the championship game. And then the actual championship game is like, eh. Like the Ohio State-Georgia game last year felt like the actual championship game because then TCU just forgot to show up to the actual championship game.
Yeah, because whoever won the Ohio State-Georgia game last year was going to win the national title.
Right. Also, it's hard to believe that game with C.J. Stroud playing like that was only a year ago.
Yeah.
Because that literally feels like forever ago.
Dude, I remember watching that game and them missing the field goal as the ball dropped. It literally
I remember that.
Wide left, change channels 2-1. Happy New Year. I was like, are you kidding me?
Justin's over here watching that ball just sideways go past the field goal.
Oh.
And I'm proud to be an American.
He put it to the side.
He sure did. Oh my goodness. All right. Thought y'all had Randy Bullock out there. Speaking of the semifinals, Michigan and Washington will be our national championship matchup. And if you're like me and your Kentucky Wildcats were nowhere close to the college football playoff, you just love seeing chaos and new teams win. And I'm glad that there will not be an Alabama or a Georgia in the national championship game. I think we're both big Huskies.
First time ever that an SEC team has not played for the national title,
which is crazy. I think. Well, in the college,
but the SEC is the best conference
in the college football playoff era.
Yeah.
But I think we're both big Huskies fans.
Oh yeah, Husky up, baby.
Yeah. So Michigan and Washington will play for the national title next Monday after Michigan stops Alabama in overtime, 27-20. Although let's be honest, Jalen Milroe stopped Alabama. He had a pretty good game. I found him. I'm fighting my O-line in the locker room after the game.
Yeah.
Because that was rough. He got sacked 5 times in the first half, which is the most by an Alabama team in the Nick Saban era. And and then of course he dove straight into the defensive line after taking 2 timeouts for the last play. And I'm just like, y'all took 2 timeouts and that's what you came out with?
Dude, that was so bad.
Quarterback
It was
draw
like,
straight up the middle. Like, what were we talking
yeah,
about?
and like, I understand that, like, their game plan is to get Jalen Milroe the ball. He's their best player. I'm fine with that. But it was 2 timeouts, and they draw up a play where their running back motions into the slot, and they just run Jalen Milroe right up the middle. Like, they had success rolling him out all game, and why not either keep the back in there and try to run some sort of read option where he's probably going to pull it, but at least it keeps the defense a little bit honest.
Yeah.
Or if you're gonna motion the running back out there, why not roll him out there, give him a chance to make a play with his legs, but he also has a chance to make a play, throwing the ball.
If it's
like
me,
it just felt like after 2 timeouts and 5 minutes wasted, that's what you came up with. It just felt like a major disappointment.
Like, I would have rather them lost with like Jalen Milroe throwing to the end zone and his receiver it's just incomplete or getting picked off. Like I would have just rather somebody had a chance to make a play. That one, they never had it. It literally looked like that ball. I mean, that ball was snapped low. Like Jalen Milroe almost had to pick it up off the ground, but it just felt to me like there was no play. It literally felt like he was just like, I don't know, man, F it, go do something. Yeah. Like, it was weird. And if it were me, instead of motioning the running back out, I would have kept him back. I would have been in shotgun, and I would have kept him back for blocker. Because if you saw on that last play, one of Michigan's edge rushers got around their O-lineman and was about to smoke Jalen Milroe before he went up the middle. And for me, it was just, you keep your running back, you have him as a blocker. Jalen Milroe looks for a quick option, and if he doesn't have it, he pulls it and runs. If you come up short, whatever. But, you would rather lose having a shot. I don't think they ever had a chance on that play.
No, they didn't.
No. It was like, I know we joke about, like, we want to see somebody other than Alabama in the national championship game, but I feel like for you would have rather you would have rather any other team beat them there than Michigan.
Yeah. As an Ohio State fan, it pains me to see Michigan in the national title.
Yeah.
That's why I hope Washington wins 63-3.
Now, I will say, Michigan, I mean, J.J. McCarthy, like, he didn't have, like, the best game, but he made the throws when they mattered. He made the throws when they mattered.
He made the plays.
Their running back, Brock, I cannot remember his last name to save my life right now, but
Blake Corum.
Blake Corum. That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Brock Bowers because I was reading it in my notes.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy. No, Blake Corum. That dude, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Like that run.
Yeah, he's a tank.
That run to take the lead, he just drug Alabama's defenders in. He was like, you're not getting me down.
I mean, he tore up Ohio State 2 years in a row. So
yeah.
I know how it feels.
Well, he did that 2 years in a row right after Hassan Haskins did that.
Yeah.
Because he ran.
Yeah.
Oof.
He looked like Zeke against Alabama.
He did.
2014.
He did.
Anyway, as for the other semifinal.
Yeah. Before we end up dogging on Ohio State, Washington survived Texas's last attempt at a comeback as they won 37-31. That game was like, Washington was in complete control. It was not interesting at all. And then in the last 3 minutes, it was like, wait, this is actually like a really crazy close game. Like, that game was a lot of fun. I picked Washington to win it all, so it's pretty cool to see that. But honestly, that Washington-Texas game, and both of these games, honestly, like we said a minute ago, were everything I could have hoped for the semifinal. Like, they were exciting, and I truly felt like the 4 best teams were there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's kind of all the breaking news we had. So let's move on into the recap, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, the Ravens made the Dolphins almost look like a JJV team. More like maybe a middle school team, as they won 56-19. Just real quick on that game, Lamar, I think, cemented his MVP there. I mean, he had what?
I think he's like minus 20,000 MVP. it would literally take him snapping his ankle in half on the first play of the game, and then Tyreek Hill going for 400 yards.
Right, for sure. It was a little unfortunate for CMC's MVP campaign that he had probably one of his worst games of the year. The same week that Lamar had probably the best game of his life.
Yeah.
Because I think Lamar threw for 350 and 5 touchdowns or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it was nasty. And then Tyler Huntley came in and threw a touchdown as well. Miami, look, man, I mean, I don't know that this taught me anything about Miami we didn't already know. I mean, we've seen them kind of...
Yeah, I mean, they struggle against the good teams.
They do, and I mean, obviously losing Bradley Chubb just kind of further makes their defense weak, and I think the problem with Miami is that how do they beat you? They run the air out of the ball, and then Tua makes the throws when he can and when he needs to. Whenever they go down like they did against Baltimore, Tua has to make throws, and then you can't run, and I mean, I think the key to beating Miami is as clear as it's ever been. You take them out, you get out ahead of them early, and they're going to fall apart. So, Justin, I'll ask you the first question, then you can get the second one. But do we trust the Dolphins in the postseason?
I don't. I personally, like we said, I don't think that they can beat a good team. I mean, I know they beat Dallas, but if you look at Dallas's road record, it's horrendous. Like it's terrible. They're not a good road team. So beating them at home, I don't think is, an insane triumph.
Right.
And I think going back to what you said, that, Tua makes the throws when he can, but he struggles making the throws when he has to. And it goes back to the whole game manager or game changer. And Lamar's a game changer. You're down 2 touchdowns. You have faith that you're going to win that game.
Oh, yeah.
That you can still win that game. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I mean, outside of those guys, I mean, those are the 3 game changers where it doesn't matter what situation you're in. You could be down 30 at halftime. You still have a shot because you have that guy on your sideline.
You said 3. Who were your 3? Who were your 3 game changers?
Mahomes, Burrow, and Lamar.
I might throw Josh Allen in there.
Maybe, but it just with his mistake. I know he's toned down on the mistakes recently, but that is still a part of his game.
Right.
Is how turnover prone he is.
I still, dude. I know
maybe.
He's not the topic right now, but I still can't get over that throw where he was halfway out of bounds and.
Yeah.
It is.
Speaking of which, the throw that Lamar made, where it was the 75-yard touchdown pass to Zay Flowers. If you watch that, he drops back and looks like he's a left-handed thrower. The pocket collapses around him, and all he does is rotate his hips and step into it was like a 40-yard pass. Mm-hmm. He literally had the ball in his left hand like he was going to throw it lefty, swiveled his hips right, and just launched a 40-yarder on a rope.
The crazy thing about Lamar too is people act like he's only a running, even still to this day I still hear sports media people be like, oh well, he's a running back at quarterback. Lamar is one of the only quarterbacks besides maybe Josh Allen, and I've seen some of the throws from Will Levis, and Mahomes has a pretty good arm, but Lamar, I swear, it's dude, he barely flicks his wrist and he's throwing the thing 60 yards. His throwing... that
was one of the most impressive throws that I've seen all year.
His arm...
he literally just rotated his hips.
Yeah, he rotated and just...
one step, 40 yards on a dot.
You could...
it was incredible.
You couldn't convince me that he didn't have one of them passing machines, that he just sat down really quick and it went thunk and shot that ball out of there. It was crazy. Also, I apologize. I'm getting over being sick and I've got drainage going on, so...
you're good.
Struggling a little bit, but... Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on all of that.
So week 18, man, we got Dolphins and Bills
for the AFC East somehow
for the title.
Crazy.
In this matchup, who do you fear more, the Dolphins or the Bills?
Given what I just said about the Dolphins, I don't think my answer is going to surprise you. But I don't see how you look at what the Dolphins have done this year and even the head-to-head matchup and you say that you fear the Dolphins more. Because, and I'm not saying you do, but you know what I mean. I don't see how anyone could say that because the answer has to be the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you look at the hot streak that they're on, and granted, the last 2 weeks they've been, so-so. They haven't been their best football the last 2 weeks, but they're on a 4-game winning streak. And Obviously, if Miami loses, they're still in the playoffs. They're just going to be the 5 seed, 6 seed, something like that.
6 seed.
Yeah.
Cleveland's locked up the 5.
Right. So they would be the 6th seed. But, I think that if the Dolphins end up in the 6th seed, I think they're a one-and-done team.
They'll probably have to go to Kansas City.
They would have to go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
If Buffalo... obviously, if Buffalo loses, there's a chance they're not making the playoffs. Now, if Steelers...
Which is crazy.
Yeah, if Pittsburgh, or I think Houston, if one of those two lose, they're in no matter what. But, Buffalo, just their defense, I think, is better than Miami's, even with the injuries. I think their defense has stepped up and has played better. I can comfortably say that because my dad probably locked up our fantasy championship over me, with Buffalo's defense getting him like 19. I think Buffalo's upside right now is higher. I think that they have the better quarterback, and the team that has the better quarterback wins the game most of the time. Another reason why I think Buffalo is the better team is when Miami loses Tyreek, what happens? They look bad. We saw it against Tennessee. Yeah. They look bad. Stephon Diggs has been almost non-existent the last 4 weeks. He had like 4 catches for like 29 yards in their last game. And yet, Buffalo's been winning. Now, granted, that's because they found like Derrick Henry Jr. in James Cook. But, Buffalo can win without Stephon Diggs. Miami has yet to prove to me that they can win against a good team without Tyreek. I know they beat Dallas, but honestly, that was more of Dallas beating Dallas than it was Miami beating Dallas. Because, anyway. I fear Buffalo more, and I genuinely think if Buffalo gets the 6th seed, they could go to Kansas City and win that game. But
yeah, they've done it in the regular season before.
Right.
Like 3 straight years. So.
Right. And Kansas City right now, honestly, they kind of feel like a one and done team to me too.
Depending on who they play. I think if they get matched up with Buffalo, they probably lose that game. I think if they get matched up with Miami, I think they match up with Miami better.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they beat Miami.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on who Kansas City's matchup is.
Yeah. Let's be honest, they probably should beat Buffalo too, but you already know MVS is going to drop the game-winning touchdown. So, too soon, Chiefs fans? Anyway. I fear the Bills more. Did you want to contribute to that question at all, or do you kind of agree?
No, man, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree.
Cool. Well, then let's move on to our next game. The Cowboys won a game they absolutely should not have, as the Lions beat them, but then the refs bailed out the Cowboys, and the Cowboys ended up winning 20-19. First off, I just want to say, before I get into the penalty on the 2-point conversion, the Lions should have never been in that position because the Lions should have never had the ball again. Mike McCarthy continues to prove that he is one of the dumbest head coaches when it comes to situational awareness. You have the ball.
His end of game management is awful.
You have the ball under 2 minutes. Detroit has no timeouts, and you throw the ball 3 straight times and punt. And Dak is throwing the ball to freaking you in Cincinnati. Like, he is throwing so far out of bounds that you could catch it. Even if you, literally, Dak would have been better off getting sacked 3 straight times than what they did. Because the clock continues running, Detroit can't stop it. What are they doing? Genuine, I don't understand. So that's my first point. My second point, okay, the Lions got the ball back. They get the touchdown. Dan Campbell, with his, just massive set of balls that you have to carry in a wheelbarrow, decides, nah, screw overtime, we're winning now. So then, and there's video evidence of this. Jared Goff points at Taylor Decker and says, hey, go report as eligible. Taylor Decker walks over to the ref with another person whose name I don't know. and reports in as eligible. Like, you can see them, there's video evidence of him and the ref talking, the ref shaking his head, and then starting to walk away. As the ref is starting to walk away, it's Brad Allen, by the way. I'm going to name drop him because I hope people go find him. Anyway, probably shouldn't say that on a podcast, but anyway. As the ref is walking away, number 70 starts to run up towards that huddle. But the ref doesn't appear to acknowledge him and just walks over to Dallas. So then, what we have found after the fact is that Brad Allen told Dallas that number 70 reported as eligible, even though there is video evidence of 70 not being a part of that conversation and 68 reporting as eligible, Taylor Decker. Well, Decker catches the 2-point conversion. They get it. Lions win, right? Because there's like 23 seconds left.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas is going to have the ball 3 timeouts, 23 seconds. But the game is probably over. Yeah, the game is probably over. Dak is going to throw directly to the Lions, let's be real. Instead, Brad Allen throws a flag. And he's like, ineligible receiver, or illegal touching. And it was obviously an ineligible receiver. And then, of course, Dan Campbell, understandably so, about has a heart attack on the sideline as he's yelling so hard at Brad Allen. So then they get moved back 5 yards from the 7. And this is my quarrel with Dan Campbell and why I think that even though I'm picking the Lions and I'm standing by and I'm picking them in the NFC Championship, but I don't know that they are going to win a Super Bowl with Dan Campbell as their coach because of stuff like this. In his anger, he decides to go for it again. And then they get a flag, so that, because they don't get it, but they get a flag, so then they get to try again. And this is like, whatever being you pray to, whatever being you believe in, this being is telling you, kick the extra point. Like, if you get 3 shots at it and your first 2 are not good, kick the extra point. And what did he do? He tried again to go for 2, and then, of course, Jared Goff just dirted it instead of hitting his... I mean, he didn't quite dirt it, but he threw it short. And if Jared Goff had gotten that ball there, they get the 2-point probably, and it's over. But he doesn't get it. The Cowboys hang on to win. The Cowboys, like, they lucked into an NFC East title because, I mean, you know, obviously, as long as they win their next game, they win the East, regardless of what happens. Like, Philly needs Dallas to lose now in order to have a shot at the division again. Justin, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, dude, I agree with you that Dan Campbell's decision making there, like, I understand what he's trying to go for. Like, maybe his thinking was, oh, we want to get out. You know, we don't want to risk it to overtime and, you know, risk an injury. We just, you know, we've locked up either a 2 or a 3 seed. We just want to go for the win. If we don't get it, we don't get it. If we get it, we win, whatever.
Right.
But it's like, at some point, you kind of have to look at the bigger picture and realize, like you said, dude, 3 different opportunities at it. Just kick the extra point. Go to overtime. And if you lose in overtime, so be it.
Yeah, that is God, Allah, Buddha, whoever you pray to. That is them telling you, kick the damn extra point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else to say there.
Point and go to overtime. And if you lose in overtime, so be it. Like, I don't know.
And trust me, Lions fans, you can ask Justin. I was as heated as anybody that they got screwed over out of that 2-point conversion. That was one of the most egregious calls I have ever seen. Even more so than the, you know, non-call and the pass interference with the Chiefs a few weeks ago. Like, more so than any penalty I've seen in a long time. That one had me so mad because it was one of those where the Detroit won the game and the refs took it away because the ref did his job wrong. I was 100% on their side. But then I got less emotional about it. This is, again, like you've previously said, this is why I'm really glad we don't record these on Saturday or Sunday nights. Because, like, I mean, you and I have both had several games this year with our teams specifically, but this is also one of those games where if we had recorded this, one of us would have gotten canceled.
Yeah, you would have said some not so nice expletives.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like this is another one of those games where we should be talking about what each team did well. and instead a controversial play or decision is the focus of the topic.
Yeah. You know, now that the Cowboys control their destiny in the NFC East, is it fair to say that if they don't make the NFC Championship game, that it's a major disappointment? Because you got to think they're going to be playing as a 2 seed if they, barring that they win against Washington, they'll get the 2 seed and they'll host 2 playoff games against more than likely either Seattle or Green Bay, and then they'll probably end up hosting Detroit again.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, like you said, them winning the division is best case scenario for them because it puts off that matchup against, say, a Philly or 49ers. It puts that matchup off for a while so they can have a couple games to figure it out, right? I think, you let Philly win the division, you come in as the 5, then you win your first matchup against the 4 seed. Well, then you likely have San Francisco as your round 2 matchup. And if I'm Dallas, the last thing I want to do is face San Francisco in round 2. You want to give them another week to potentially have an injury or, eventually, something. You want to have more time between that. But yeah, if they don't make the NFC Championship game this year, again, like we've previously said, until Baltimore these last few weeks, this really felt like one of those years where it wasn't clearly anybody's year. Before it's always been, oh, well, it's Kansas City versus the world, or all right, the NFC teams are fighting for who's going to lose to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Like, it's one of those years where Baltimore feels like the most complete team, the team that's really trying to be like, no, it's our year. But outside of Baltimore, it's wide open. Like, there's not one clear team in the NFC, I feel like, that is the best. Because even San Francisco at times, I know they've clinched the 1 seed, but even San Francisco at times has looked very fallible. Yeah. So, Dallas, I mean, Dak is a veteran. Like, at this point, it's time. This is time for him to put up or shut up. If you don't get it this year, and this was one of my hot takes earlier in the year, but if you don't get it this year, I really feel like it's time to start thinking about moving on from Dak.
They're probably not going to do that because
they're not.
Paid him a bunch of money.
They paid him. Well, I think his contract is either up this year or next year because I know he's got the opportunity to negotiate this year.
Maybe
with his contract, but at this point, you know what you're getting from Dak. His upside, one of the things I love about what Skip Bayless has said about him. I don't love a lot of what Skip Bayless has said, but one of my favorite things he said is that Dak has moments where he plays like the 4th overall pick. And then he has moments where he plays like the 4th rounder that he was. And with Dak's upside, it feels like if there is ever going to be a year for him to prove himself, it's this year. Because this really feels like the first year where it's not like, last year, oh, Philly was the best team in the NFC. Or, oh, previously it's been X, Y, or Z. Like, this truly is, I think, the year for the Cowboys if they're going to do it. It's this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So... cool.
Speaking of the NFC
East, Justin Downs, we've said this a lot lately. Turn it off, buddy.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals, of all teams, have decided that they have the NFC East number, or at least the 2 top teams in the NFC East, because they beat the Cowboys earlier in the year, and then they showed the Eagles that they're not a team to trifle with, as they won 35-31. And as we previously stated, the division is now the Cowboys to lose. I've said it, I can't tell you how many times now, but Kyler Murray is playing like a man that does not want to be replaced. And if I'm Arizona, I don't think you draft a quarterback this year. I don't think quarterback is your issue. Like, honestly, I like Kyler Murray. I know there's been a lot of conversations about his Call of Duty habits and his... does he actually watch film? Dude makes it look easy. Like, he makes it look effortless. I know when he runs like a toddler that just took your phone. But he makes it look easy. And so, for me, I think you keep him and you build around him. Because he's proven when he's healthy, he's good. He was an AJ Green retiring mid-route away from having like a 6-0 or 7-0 start a couple years ago. You remember that when he had AJ
Yeah.
Green for the game-winning touchdown and AJ Green's controller disconnected?
Yeah, he just said, nah, I'm
He's
good.
like, I'm not looking for that. And the Packers player was like, that looks like the ball. Justin, I mean, we'll start with Arizona since that's who I was talking about. But do you think the Cardinals should keep Kyler Murray, or should they aim for like a Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or another quarterback?
Look, I think they need to keep Kyler Murray and build around him because you're going to get, a top 10 pick. I don't know. I don't know exactly where they pick right now. Probably 4 or 5, somewhere in that area. But with this being such a wide receiver heavy class, you have a good tight end in Trey McBride. And you have a decent wide receiver one with Hollywood. So, I think it would be wise of them to kind of build around Kyler Murray. You have a good running back in James Conner. Like, why not build around that? Give him another weapon, draft an O lineman, bolster the defense. Like, you have the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
You already paid him. So why move off of that and try to start again with, another quarterback?
Do you know?
I think they'd be smart to just keep him, honestly.
Yeah. Do you know where they're drafting? It's early. I know it's pretty early, but it's not. It might be top 5, but I don't know.
They are drafting, as of right now, I believe third or fourth.
Okay. If you are Arizona, sorry, I'm looking up a name really quick. I like what you said. If you're Arizona, I think you build around Kyler Murray.
And I would go get a guy like Keon Coleman from Florida State or Malik Neighbors from LSU.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Romo Duns from Washington or Egbuka from Ohio. I don't think Egbuka is a top 5 receiver, but I think he's still a first rounder. Go get one or even Brock Bowers.
That's what I was about to say.
He's a good receiving threat.
Do you? I think you prioritize wide receiver or tight end with that third pick. I like Brock Bowers just because they've had a lot of questions at tight end with, they let Zach Ertz go, and then I don't even know who their tight end is now.
Trey McBride.
Who?
Exactly.
Didn't he play for the Bengals, or did I make that up?
I thought he did. I don't think so.
Okay, I thought I remembered. I thought I remembered seeing
guy.
him on like y'all's practice squad, or maybe in the preseason. But
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, I think Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers or I think if you're Arizona, I think you build around Kyler. Moving on to Philadelphia. Oof. It has been a rough last 5 weeks. You went from comfortably in control of the NFC East to you're very likely to have the 5 seed. And, Philadelphia went from like a team that I wouldn't want to play to I'm not really scared of them. I think they're beatable. And, Jalen Hurts, for whatever reasons he's had this year, is having a bad year. I don't think there's any way around that. It's gotten beyond the point of, well, he only had a bad game because he was sick, or he only had a bad game because at this point, he's having a bad year. Because even when he was healthy, I don't know that we really looked at him as having like a great game. I mean, we had a lot of weeks where we were like, the Eagles haven't put together a good game yet. Is Jalen Hurts overrated, or is it truly just a bad year? It's a tough question, I know. It's hard.
I was about to say I think he's just having a bad year, but then I started thinking he's like having a lot of turnovers. He doesn't look like the same guy, even though he has the same weapons. I don't know, man.
Like let me read you some stats here. He has 3,803 passing yards, which is 11th in the league. He has 23 touchdowns, which is 12th. He has 14 interceptions, and he has a QBR of 61.6.
Those aren't great numbers.
We look at his rushing yards. He's got 155 carries for 601 yards. He does have 15 touchdowns, but how many of those are 1 yard line getting shoved over the line by DeAndre Swift and his tight ends and stuff?
How many did you say? 15?
15.
Probably 13 of them.
Yeah. But he has 14 interceptions and 6 fumbles. So you look at it, he's got 15 and 23, so that's he's got 38 touchdowns and 20 turnovers.
Yeah.
It's just it's not obviously as bad as Jameis Winston's 30 for 30 year, but it's one of those, you're not even at a 2-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio. That's not a good year.
No.
I'd like to think that this is not who he is, but if we look at 2022, he was 3,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then he was 760 yards rushing with 5 fumbles. To put it into perspective, he's got 1 more game played so far this year, and he has almost 100 less rushing yards. So he's doing a lot less actual running. Granted, he's had ankle issues on and off this year, he's been hurt, but still, it's a down year, but not really, honestly.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, it kind of poses the question, is it reasonable to say that Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, who were their OC in DC last year, is it reasonable to say that they were the MVPs of the Eagles last year? They were the reason for their success? Because it's essentially the same team, if not better, because of the way that they added through the draft and free agency. And the same head coach, same quarterback, same everything. And this is what we're getting. The only thing that's different is the coordinators. And
I think it's becoming increasingly clear to me that Nick Sirianni is one of those head coaches that's kind of like a Zach Taylor. He's a solid head coach, but he has to have a good coordinator for them to take that next step. And, as much as I want to give Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt and just blame it on a bad year, the fact that the Eagles looked so much different. I mean, it's not like he's attempted 122 more passes this year than he did last year, and he's only got 100 more yards.
That's not great.
No. He's rushed the ball 10 less times this year. Or he's carried the ball 10 less times this year, and he has 760. So he's got 160 less yards, which makes sense. But also, he's not producing at the same he was last year. And last year, he threw the ball less times and gave you almost the same production. It's very clear that the regime that they have right now, it's either they don't know how to use his talents or he is not responding to them as well as he did Shane Steichen. I think if Kevin Stefanski didn't bring Joe Flacco back from the quarterback dead and win, that's probably in bad taste with the whole DeMar Hamlin thing last year, but if he didn't bring Joe Flacco back from retirement and carry a Browns team to the playoffs, I think Shane Steichen would have an argument for Coach of the Year with what he's done with the Colts. It's very clear that Shane Steichen was a very important piece of that offense. For that defense, I don't think that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was that big of a difference maker. He was great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was as big of a difference maker in the defense last year and the defense this year. I don't think Jonathan Gannon is good. Who's their defensive coordinator right now? Is it Matt Patricia?
He recently took over calling plays. I don't think he's their official DC, though.
Okay.
I don't know who their DC is, though.
Okay. I know they fired their DC.
I know their OC is Brian Johnson.
Who? I know they fired their DC throughout the year, so I don't think Matt Patricia's the guy. I don't think their previous DC was the guy. I think your question is spot on. I think it's very fair to say that Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon were MVPs of the Eagles last year. I mean, everybody made fun of Jonathan Gannon when he took over the Cardinals. And I know they haven't won many games, but they haven't gotten blown out in many games either. They've been competitive this year. So,
For sure.
Do you have any more thoughts on these two teams? Anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Well, let's move on, shall we?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting my best Mike Breen impression ready. It's over! Detroit is the city of champions once again! Is what you would say in an alternate universe where the Pistons didn't lose 28 straight games. But they did break that streak, beating the Raptors 129-127. Look, I don't know. I mean, congrats, Detroit. You won a game. Outside of that, I don't know what else to say, man. Should Monty Williams be given another year to try to figure things out in Detroit, or what do you think they should do there?
Dude, I don't like. They have. It's so weird because they have the talent. Like Cade has been amazing. They drafted Asar Thompson, which he's super fun to watch. They have good pieces. They just aren't winning. And I think it's because they got to a point where they were like, let's just draft all of these young pieces and support them with very mediocre, veteran roles and see what happens. And this is what we're getting. We're getting a bunch of young guys who don't mesh well, trying to, mesh with these older veterans who honestly aren't very good. They're okay. Like Bogdan Bogdanovic is or Bojan Bogdanovic.
Jeez,
he's all right, but he's not. He's not some like bucket getter that's going to go get you 25 a night to where, 25-year-old Cade Cunningham has to carry you and drop 40 and 10 assists every game to even give you a shot.
Yeah.
Like it's just not a viable solution to, what they need. I don't know, man.
I was checking on them because I hadn't seen any games that they had played since they ended the losing streak, and I just saw that the Rockets ran them off the floor.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
The Rockets beat them 136-113, so they're now 3-30 on the year. I think you touched on this a little bit, but the second question I had obviously was, what do the Pistons need to do to right the wrongs? And to answer that question, Brian,
I don't know.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like, it's like you said, they have pieces, but they don't mesh, and there are a bunch of guys who don't mesh trying to mesh. It's going as well as you would expect.
Yeah.
I think if anyone can figure it out, I think Monty Williams has a shot. I mean, he did well in Phoenix. Phoenix was obviously a little bit better of a team than Detroit, but I think Monty Williams has the experience. I think you give him another year and maybe you're a little bit better. But this is going to be one of those years that Detroit is just happy that their football team is good because their basketball team ain't it.
Yeah, and their baseball team is... Wait, they have a baseball team?
Their baseball team exists.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we can leave that section there. So, I've had some fun headlines for all of our sections, and then this one's headline is just the Titans. So, we, of course, put out we ran with Houston the last time we played, right? I think that game ended up, 22-19, something like that. It was a good game. This one was the opposite of that, as the Texans beat us, 29-6? Something like that?
26-3.
26-3? Did we only score 3?
Yeah. Yep, 26-3.
Was it last week that we scored 6?
I don't know.
Man, we're butt. That's that's what you should take away from that.
That's the gist of what you're trying to say.
We are butt.
Yeah.
I'm wearing this hat only because I'm having a bad hair day. They're almost guaranteed to move on from Tannehill. But should they?
I think so. I think you just stick with Levis at this point. And if he's not the guy,
let me
maybe you draft. I don't know. I would stick with Levis.
Let me rephrase the question. Should they keep Tannehill as a backup? That's what I meant. Like, should they keep him on the roster? My thought process here is they are very likely entering a rebuild.
Yeah.
And you want as much veteran leadership as you can have during those moments. And so my thought process here is if Tannehill wants to stay, you sign him on as a backup. He very clearly knows his role. He saves you some money. Like, obviously, he would take a team-friendly deal in this scenario, but especially if you're going to be moving on from Derrick Henry and shedding some other pieces, because they're moving on from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's not re-signing. I think that's the way he's talked after some of these games. I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
So if it were me, I would sign Tannehill as a backup, just because you need as much help as you can get. But, yeah, I don't know. I know you don't think they should keep him, but...
Yeah, I would probably move off of him and draft another quarterback just because of how deep this draft is in quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe they
kind
can...
of moving forward, you just run with, either Levis or whatever quarterback you draft, and... Yeah, I don't think you waste a first rounder.
If they draft, I swear on my life that if they draft any quarterback in the first round not named Caleb Williams,
Drake May.
No, Caleb Williams or maybe Jaden Daniels.
Honestly, at this point, I'd be okay with Michael Penix Jr. too. I mean, dude just dropped a 450 ball.
Sure. Those two are all I'm saying. If they draft any quarterback not named them with the number 1 overall pick, like that is the scenario I will accept. If they trade up to number 1 and they draft anyone not named Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, I promise you on my life, I will burn every piece of Titans memorabilia I have. Our problem is not quarterback, and it has not been quarterback for so long. And I know everyone wants to blame Ryan Tannehill because he's the worst, and it's the worst thing we've ever had. Tannehill's the best statistical quarterback we've ever had. He had a bad game against Cincinnati. He did. That was also, almost 3 years ago now? Calm down. I see you getting rid of that Bengals segment. Don't do that.
I don't want to talk about that.
We're roasting your team. Don't even think about it. Anyway. It's fine. No. First round, they need to draft Malik Neighbors. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be there, but if they had the opportunity, Marvin Harrison Jr. Or you've said his name a couple times now, that one wide receiver.
Coleman?
Yeah, him. Or Brock Bowers. And then the rest of our draft can be offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And the sad thing
That's what it needs to be.
The sad thing is, I'm only slightly kidding. Like, I swear to everything I own that if I see Andre Dillard out there at left tackle one more time, I will drive to Nashville and pull him off the field myself. Golly. Anyway, let's move on before I have an aneurysm. The Chiefs hang on and take down their nemesis, the Bengals, 25-17. I saw you try to get rid of it, but we're not getting rid of it, my friend.
Yeah.
Will Kansas City make it past the divisional round in the playoffs?
We kind of touched on this earlier. I think it's situational on who they play. I think if they get matched up with like a Miami or probably Indy, I don't know if that's possible. I think it is, but if it's like Miami or Indy, probably. I think a team like Houston matches up really well with them. Obviously, I think Buffalo matches up really well with them. I don't know if Pittsburgh can sneak into the 6th seed. So yeah, I think it's honestly, given the way it is, I think if they get Buffalo or Houston, they're probably done. If they get Miami or Indy, they're probably making it through. So I would say 50-50 shot.
50-50. Okay.
Of making it to the divisional round.
I would tend to agree with you just because, like you said, it really just depends on matchups. I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't one of my hot takes, but I think if they get Buffalo, they get run off the field. I don't think it's as close as last time. I think Buffalo beats them like 38-17. Like, I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna ask you this question. Normally, I would
I know you have it, and I'm ready for it.
Normally, I would let you come back, but this is one I want you to answer because I know it's in here for you. What should Zach Taylor's future in Cincinnati be? I know how you feel, and I'm ready to hear it again. But do you think he gets a pass because Joe Burrow's been hurt, or just give me your thoughts? I want to know. Tavner's tirade, part 100. Let's get it.
No, he does not get a pass.
Good.
You want to know why? Shane Steichen with the Colts is winning games with a backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew. Kevin Stefanski is winning games with a backup quarterback, with 2 backup quarterbacks, with a 3rd backup quarterback. He's gone through 4 quarterbacks, still winning. Mike Tomlin, a defensive coach, has Mason Rudolph,
who is not good. In
quarterback.
case anyone forgot, Mason Rudolph is not good. His career highlight is getting beat over the head by his own helmet.
Wasn't ready for that. Mike Tomlin, a defensive quarterback, or a defensive coach, is winning games with Mason Rudolph. And Zach Taylor, an offensive guru, is going 3-3 with Jake Browning.
Who's good? I mean, Jake Browning's good.
He's good.
Like, not all of the losses have been on him.
Zach Taylor, with Joe Burrow as his quarterback, ready for this record? Is 29, 22, and 1.
And to be fair to Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor is probably personally responsible for like 18 of those 29 losses or 22 losses.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like Joe Burrow's had a couple bad games. Like I would argue the Kansas City loss in the AFC Championship game last year was partly on the fact that Joe Burrow started out acting like he was scared of the football, but like Zach Taylor is probably personally responsible for 18 of those.
Yeah. Zach Taylor's record without Joe Burrow.
Oh, boy.
So the year before Burrow got there, the
like 8
7
games.
or so games after Burrow
out.
got hurt his rookie year, and this season is 7-30-1. That is, for reference, that is a .184 winning percentage.
That's not good.
No.
To put it lightly.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Meaning any game without Joe Burrow, you basically have an 18% chance to win it if Zach Taylor's your coach.
Hey, I'll Venmo you $10 right now if you can tell me who that tie was without looking it up.
I know the tie with Burrow is against the Eagles his rookie year. The one without it, I have no idea.
Okay. I don't know either, but...
Probably... It's probably the year before Burrow got there, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I can't remember.
7-30-1, though.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's the thing. I love Zach Taylor as a coach, as a guy. You know, he's the player's coach. He gets in there, gives his speeches. You know, he gives out game balls after the game. He's very he goes to bars after playoff wins and he hands out, game balls to different bars around Cincinnati. The stuff that he does for the city and for the team, I think is amazing. But his play calling is just not what it needs to be.
It's egregious.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And like what frustrates me is all offseason we're told how good this team is, and yet here we are, like all of the other teams that I named just in the AFC that are winning games with a backup quarterback. You still have Jamar Chase, you still have T. Higgins, you still have Tyler Boyd, you still have Joe Mixon, you still have Chase Brown, you still have Tanner Hudson. Like, you still have all of these dudes. It's not like Joe Burrow got hurt and the rest of the team got we are marshaled. Like, is that like is that too far?
Oh, I don't know that you're allowed to say
that. Anyway, but like he still has guys to throw to, and you just, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. I think they have a lot of needs that they need to address in the offseason. Mainly what's happening with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd because they're both free agents. Who are you getting to replace them if you don't sign them? And how are you fixing this defense? Because without Jesse Bates and Von Bell, it is not the same defense. You didn't think that losing those two guys and replacing them with a rookie and Nick Scott would be this big of a drop off, but it's been a huge drop off. So they have a lot to figure out for sure.
Yeah. Whew.
You weren't ready for me to drop that, were you?
No, I wasn't. That was wow. No, he's actually only had one tie in his head coaching record as the Bengals head coach, by the way.
Oh.
I just looked it up. That
like
tie.
I said, I know the one tie is against the Eagles.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Burrow's rookie year. I
What...
don't know. I could have swore he tied again.
Anyway.
He almost tied against the Packers.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because remember, neither of them could make a field goal.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah,
I still...
Mason Crosby and
Mason Crosby
and Evan McPherson was just like, I don't want to hit it.
Dude, I just love that. I remember that vividly. I was in Planet Fitness working out, and they had the sound on for that game, and I just hear like every 2 or 3 minutes, you would just hear dong as one of the kickers would hit the goalpost.
Like trying to win the game too. It's not like there was like 8 minutes left in the second quarter. It was like game-winning field goals.
Yeah, well, I think didn't that happen in overtime too? They went to overtime.
Yep.
And both teams missed a field goal in overtime, and then finally, like a minute left, the Packers finally made a freaking field goal.
Yep.
Oh gosh! All right.
Talk about it.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Well, let's wrap up our recaps with Joe Flacco and the Browns. So Joe Flacco took another break from mowing his yard, and he clinched a playoff spot for the Browns as they win 37-20 over the New York Jets. Yeah, Joe Flacco.
What's the difference?
Joe Flacco needs to be comeback player of the year.
Dude, I will die on this hill that he is comeback player of the year.
He should be. I know. Yeah. I understand the reasoning for DeMar Hamlin. I get it.
I don't.
I do. I mean, man's died on the field and came back to play more football. But part of what I think should go into comeback player of the year is the impact you had. So, like, obviously, this is exactly the same thing, but whenever I had mono my sophomore year of college cross country, and I came back from running, like, the worst season of my life to finish almost the exact same time that I ran the year before, and I think I was, like, second on the team that year, or third on the team that year. Like, I helped carry us to, like, I think a 4th or 5th place finish, which, decent. But, like, part of the reason why I got comeback runner of the year was because I, ran the same time as the year before. Like, I contributed. DeMar Hamlin, man, has played like 5 games maybe, and he's
played 5 snaps.
He's played 5 snaps, and he has, I think, 2 tackles.
He's played 2 tackles and 2 penalties.
Yeah. So, like, I'm taking nothing away from the journey he's been on, the incredible, like, recovery, comeback. I think all of that is admirable and amazing. I don't want to short that at all. But I think when it comes to winning an award like that, your performance on the field should dictate who wins that award. And for me, I think Joe Flacco he wasn't obviously retired, but he might as well have been.
Yeah.
He's leading the Browns to the playoffs, and he is the only quarterback this season that has looked awesome in the Browns offense. I mean, I know he's got a lot of turnovers, but man's is 50 slinging the ball. You're going to turn it over, but he's also winning them games. Justin, what's the ceiling for the Browns?
I think they're capable of making the AFC Championship game. I'm not going to say that they are, but I think they're capable of it, just given how good their defense is.
Wow.
You got to think they're going to go on the road to whoever comes out of the AFC South. I have to imagine it's going to be the Jags.
Yeah, you got to think it's going to be the Jags.
Because they play Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine they're going to go on the road to play the Jags, who they already smacked. They're trash.
Fair.
I'm willing to say it about the Bengals. The Bengals are trash too, so don't feel bad.
We stink.
Well, so if that's being the case, they need one other wild card upset to happen. Otherwise, they're playing the Ravens in the divisional. Um,
Oops.
but I think they're capable. They have beaten Baltimore earlier this year, so I don't think they're going into that Ravens game. They're going to be scared because they know that they can beat them. Um,
Well, if you're
so yeah, I think AFC Championship game would be just a massive success for this team.
I think if you're Cleveland, you really want Miami to win this AFC East matchup, but then Buffalo still get in
Yeah,
because you really want to see Buffalo and Kansas City, and Buffalo upset Kansas City.
yeah,
then Buffalo,
that's an ideal world for
'cause then
for
Buffalo
Cleveland because
gets
then they're going to go on
Baltimore.
the road to they'd go on the road to Miami more than likely because Miami would get the 2 seed and probably win.
Yeah,
But even still, I mean, Cleveland's defense against that offense, I like their odds.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I would pick Cleveland in that game all day. Um, yeah. No, I think kind of the follow up to this that you had on there was, should this season already be viewed as a success for Browns fans? And I mean, I think that unquestionably yes. Like, I think this season is a success. Just you get your franchise quarterback, and he has been at best unavailable this year. When he was available, outside of like one game, he was very bad. You go from that to what, DTR and PJ Walker. Okay. Like like you would have said, oh, this is a rebuilding year for the Browns. You lose Nick Chubb. Like, I don't know about you, but whenever I saw Nick Chubb's leg invert in that game, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, they're done. They're done. And yet here we are. Joe Flacco, of all people, comes out onto the field and is leading them to the playoffs. I think this season
Joe
is
Flacco, bro. I think you need Joe Montana.
for real. Like, I think that this season should be viewed as a success by Browns fans, and anything they do in the playoffs, realistically, even if they're a one and done team in the playoffs, I think you've got to view it as a success just based on everything that's happened this year. But yeah, Kevin Stefanski, coach of the year. Anyway,
For sure.
that, I think, unless you have any final thoughts, I think that is it for the recaps.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, right. One more thing in that, the Jets. Anyway, let's move on to Tavner's Tears.
All right. Well, it's everyone's favorite segment. It's the reason they listen to the podcast. We only got 2 more NFL tiers. We got this one and next week, and that'll be it for the NFL tiers.
We'll have to come up with like something fun for the playoffs, like some kind of segment like that.
Yeah. We'll come up with something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But as for now, we only got 2 more weeks of Tavner's Tears, so I'm sure everyone's sad about that. But let's get into it. Coming in at 32 and 31, once again not moving. That's going to be the Carolina Panthers and the Washington Commanders, respectively.
Bro, that's not what you have written on there.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I actually have the Washington Huskies coming in at 32. Carolina's going to drop to 33. They've been relegated to the NCAA.
As they should. Coming in at 30.
Anyway, coming in at 30, I have the New York Giants. 29, I have the New England Patriots. 28, the Los Angeles Chargers. 27, the Arizona Cardinals. And rounding out this bottom group, I have the Tennessee Titans coming in at 26.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next grouping, coming in at 25, I have the New York Jets. 24, I have the Atlanta Falcons. 23, dropping a couple spots, I have the Minnesota Vikings. 22, the Las Vegas Raiders. And 21, I have the Chicago Bears moving up a couple spots from last week.
Hey, shout out Bear fans. That's one of the nicest things that's been said about them all season.
All right. Top 20, I have the New Orleans Saints. Number 19, I have the Denver Broncos. Number 18, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Number 17, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. fall from grace.
They were up at 9 at one point
I
this year.
think 2 weeks ago they were like 8th.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 6, I have the Green Bay, or not number 6, 16. I have the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, 16. All right, coming in at 15, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 14, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. 13, the Houston Texans. 12, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And number 11, just missing out on the top 10, I have the Indianapolis Colts.
Before you
3 straight AFC South teams.
Wow, and none of them are mine.
Yeah.
Before you get into the top 10, I just saw that Panthers owner David Tepper was fined $300,000 for throwing a drink at a fan. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, what I missed in the breaking news was that the Jets have cut running back Dalvin Cook to allow him to join a contender.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the NFL just sent a reminder to players to clearly report as eligible. All right, top 10.
Well, let's get into the top 10. Coming in at 10th, dropping 4 spots after their loss this week. That's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yikes.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if I'm ready to say that the Eagles are cooked, but 2 weeks ago they had full control of this division and had full control of their own destiny. And since then, they have barely escaped the Giants, lost to the Cardinals, and in the second half of both of those games, they have given up 51 combined points. Just in the second half of those games. Now they have to face reality that whatever team that they're going to face in the NFC South, they're going to have to go on the road. Probably going to be Tampa. But with the way that they're playing, I don't even think they're going to be favored in that game.
I don't either.
So I have the Eagles at 10.
I mean, both of us had our hot take that whatever team lost the NFC East race was going to lose to Tampa. And also, did you say you weren't?
Tampa didn't exactly bolster that case.
Well,
but...
yeah. I mean, of course, the week that we're like, yeah, Tampa's going to easily beat the Saints is the week that they forget how to play football. Anyway, real quick, did you say that you weren't ready to call the Eagles cooked?
I did.
Bro, what are you talking? If they get any more cooked, Russell Wilson's going to be asking to be a part of it. That was a really bad joke.
Yeah.
But
the
point, I mean, you laughed, so it can't be that bad. But the point stands. The Eagles at 10. That's rough. On to number 9.
Number 9, I have the Los Angeles Rams moving up a spot after their win.
I'm still laughing.
Look, I think
I'm still laughing at my stupid ass joke.
I think they're a major threat to make some noise in the NFC playoffs.
I do too.
Against whoever they play. I would love to see them play Detroit just because of the storylines with Stafford and Goff. That trade. But, getting a matchup against Dallas, I don't think would be a bad matchup either.
No.
I think they have weapons everywhere. Kyron Williams is just ridiculous.
Yeah, he also probably...
I think their defense has played a lot better lately. So I have the Rams at 9.
Yeah, Kyron Williams probably also single-handedly helped my dad beat me in the fantasy football championship. The Rams, I mean, I think we both said it last week. Like, the Rams are a sneaky, like, dark horse NFC contender.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they have the potential to go far. Like, it would not surprise me at all to see them as, like, a sneaky NFC championship team.
It's kind of like what I was saying earlier in the season, like with the Chiefs, like, oh, they have Mahomes, they have Andy Reid. It's the same thing. They have Stafford, they have McVay. They've done it before.
Yeah.
They could do it again.
We technically live in a world where we could have, like, a Baltimore-Cleveland and then, like, a Rams-Cowboys Final Four. Which... Ew, but also
but I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see the parody. I don't know. Anyway, number 8.
Yeah. Number 8, I have the Kansas City Chiefs moving up 1 spot from last week. This is a weird team. It's a weird team. It almost feels like a Tom Brady kind of team. Like they rely very heavily on their defense to make plays, make key stops when they need them. and they make the very key plays from their offensive playmakers, when they need them. And I still don't trust them heading into the playoffs. Like I said, I give them about a 50-50 shot, just depending on who they play. But odds are they're on, or actually, no, not odds are, 100% they're only going to get one game at home, unless teams behind them lose, or teams in front of them lose. But odds are they're only going to get one game at home, and then they're either going to have to go on the road to Buffalo or Miami, and then Baltimore. That's a tough road. That is a very, like, the fact that they could play home against Miami, at Buffalo, and at Baltimore. I'm sorry, they're not getting through that.
No.
There's no shot.
Negative.
So, Chiefs at 8.
You said they rely on their playmakers, but do they? Their playmakers don't rely on themselves. So, no.
Yeah, that's true.
The Chiefs, like you said, they're weird. It's one of those years where they shouldn't get through that, but also if any team, like, it's one of those things too where all three of those teams, with the exception of Baltimore, could just have one of those games where they just don't show up.
I mean, even Baltimore, Lamar's only 1-3 in the playoffs.
That's true, but honestly, Lamar just looks different this year, man. I think there's any year he's just going to shut up the haters. It's going to be this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chiefs at 8.
Right.
None of that was really about how good they are, but Chiefs at 8.
Yeah. Well, number 7, I have the Cleveland Browns. They did not move. I know they won by 17, but it's the Jets. So, Browns at 7. They became the first team ever to make the playoffs while starting 4 different quarterbacks in the same season. And if that isn't Kevin Stefanski Coach of the Year, then I don't know what is. And, they get a week to rest their stars. Like I said, I like their chances against whoever comes out of the AFC South. And I'm going to double down on this, that Joe Flacco 1,000% deserves Comeback Player of the Year. So, Browns at 7.
Absolutely. I mean, the Browns, Kevin Stefanski and Joe Flacco have genuinely made the Browns, like, a weirdly likable team. Like, in previous years, like, I've not really cared much for the Browns, mostly because their fan base is kind of Titans fans are delusional, too, so I can't say anything, but, like, and then just with Deshaun Watson, they just weren't a likable team. But, like, Nick Chubb going down.
I mean, I still don't like them, but I am rooting for Joe Flacco, but that's about it.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's one of those two, like, it's not like you can sit here and say your team's better. Like, you can't argue, like, against it that way. So.
Not this year.
So, I mean, I don't
Historically,
know.
I mean,
I like to root for the feel good stories, and I mean, Lamar kind of shutting up the doubters is a feel good story, but so is kind of Joe Flacco coming back. Like I said previously, it's kind of like seeing your dad do something he enjoys. It's just fun. So,
for sure.
Browns at 7.
All right, coming in at number 6, dropping 2 spots after their loss, I have the Miami Dolphins. I think this team can be dangerous, but the fact that they had a shot to lock up the division and then proceeded to lose by 37.
Yeah, they're not dangerous.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they can be dangerous. Just, well, they were in danger this past week.
They couldn't even stop Tyler Huntley.
So my question is that if they beat Denver by 50 and Baltimore beat them by 37, does that mean Baltimore could beat Denver by 87? Is my mathing there?
Realistically, no, but also yeah. I'll give it to you. Yeah, sure.
Anyway.
87-0, baby.
Anyway, so they lost Bradley Chubb for the year. So they're going to have to rely heavily on their offense to put up a lot of points, and they're probably going to have to win in shootouts moving forward if they want to win games. So that is Miami at 6.
Yeah, no.
Anything?
The fact that Tyler Huntley himself could have beaten the Dolphins.
Yeah,
the Dolphins, I just don't, like I said earlier, they just don't scare me.
Yeah.
They just don't.
All right, coming in at number 5, moving up 3 spots after their win, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Look, they're 16-0 over the last 2 years at home, and now it looks like they're going to have a home playoff run, obviously outside of the NFC Championship game, barring an absolute collapse against the Commanders in Week 18. I think this team can do some damage in the playoffs, given the fact that how good they are at home, and it'll be interesting to see how Dak plays. If they get that far. So I have the Cowboys at 5.
Yeah, I feel like 5 is a good placement for them. I mean, we can't argue and say that they didn't get lucky against the Lions, but also,
Yeah.
like we've said previously, good teams find ways to win games, even if they're kind of gift wrapped to them with a bow.
Yeah.
They still won. So Cowboys at 5, I think that's kind of perfect for them.
Yep. And usually when two teams are separated by one spot, like, say they're 16 and 17, but they've played each other, I will give the nod to whoever won that head-to-head matchup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually.
I can vouch for that. You usually do, but I know you're not because you're about to say the Lions.
I am about to say the Lions coming in at 4.
Dropping one spot.
My reasoning for this is, I know. But Dallas beat Detroit. They should be ahead of them. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Detroit won that game. I don't care what you say.
Gosh.
Say what you want. But Detroit won that game.
They did.
I think they're a better team than Dallas. I think if that was on a neutral field or in Detroit, Detroit would have won that game. And I think unlike Dallas, they aren't reliant on one playmaker to carry their offense like Dallas is with CD. And I think their defense is playing much better. And if Goff can limit the turnovers, I think they can make a serious run in the NFC.
Oh, dude, that throw.
I would love to see Detroit in the Super Bowl.
That throw where Dallas should have then won the game. But before, like with 2 minutes left, where Jared Goff underthrew his receiver a little bit, and Dallas's defensive back went parallel to the ground and picked it off, and Jared Goff was there with his hands on his knees.
Yeah,
that was one that if he just puts that a little further out, that's probably a touchdown. But I know you said that Detroit's the better team, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but also Dallas should have just won that game outright. I know they did win in the end, but Detroit has no timeouts.
It shouldn't have even come down to that.
A minute 50 left, and you throw the ball 3 straight times. I said this earlier. Mike McCarthy, Dallas, if Dallas had, if Dallas has Kevin Stefanski or Kyle Shanahan or John Harbaugh or, any of these great coaches, Andy Reid, hell, if they had Mike Vrabel, Dallas is potentially undefeated right now.
Yeah.
But Mike McCarthy, I know he won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I know that. I still think they got a little lucky that year. But, Mike McCarthy is going to be the reason that this Dallas team doesn't win the Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I think so. I think even more than Dak.
Unfortunately.
I think he is, but anyway, none of that was about how good the Lions are. Lions are good. They should have won that game. Like I said earlier, I think Dan Campbell lost them that game because of his emotional decision. I genuinely think if that goes to overtime, I think they have a chance to beat the Cowboys in overtime. Yeah. So, Lions at 4. I like it.
All right, coming in number 3, moving up 2 spots after their win, I have the Buffalo Bills. Since their dominating win over the Cowboys, they have only beaten the Easton Stick-led Chargers by 2, and the Western Kentucky legend Bailey Zappi-led Patriots by 6.
That's right, Bailey Zappi.
I think the craziest thing about this team is that they could either win the AFC East,
AFC South,
or they could not make the playoffs at all. Yeah. Well, to be fair, Miami's in the South, so I was thinking that.
Fair enough.
But, they could win the AFC East or not make the playoff. But, they could get the 2 seed or they could be the 8 seed.
Granted.
It's crazy.
Granted, I think Pittsburgh is going to lose. So they should make the playoffs.
Baltimore's not playing anybody.
Well, I mean, the Steelers are starting Mason Rudolph again, so...
Mason Rudolph looks like Tom Brady against the Bengals and the Seahawks. Anyway,
it's the Bengals and the
I think they're going to make the playoffs regardless, but, I think they're going to win this week. That's my pick. I would take the Bills over the Dolphins. So I have Bills at 3.
I agree with you. I think the Bills, like we've previously said, are probably the scariest team in the playoffs, not named the Los Angeles Rams. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like them at 3. Why don't you reveal your
All right,
top
coming in at
two
number 2
that are going to shock just everybody?
Yeah. Top 2 not moving. Number 2, I have the Niners. They clinched a first round bye, meaning they will get to rest their starters this week, and they get a bye next week. And given what they did after their week 9 bye, they absolutely tore it up, and they just embarrassed everyone for like 3 straight weeks. So I think everyone's going to get to 100%. And I think it would be a major disappointment if they didn't make the Super Bowl coming out of the NFC. So I have the Niners at 2, and I just want to go ahead and reveal number 1.
It's the only team you haven't mentioned, so let's just reveal it.
All right. Coming in number 1, I have the Ohio State. No, I'm just kidding. I have the Baltimore Ravens. Also clinching a first round bye this week, meaning they're in the same scenario as the Niners. They can rest their starters this week, and they get a bye next week. I will say I'm not sure I trust the Ravens in the playoffs as much as I do the Niners, just given the fact that the Ravens specifically and Lamar's playoff record recently does not bode well. Also, given the fact that they have lost to the Colts and the Browns this season on very similar, 2 minutes left, they just give up a touchdown, give up a field goal. I think both of those teams are probably going to make the playoffs too. And kind of the same thing with the Niners. If they don't make the or if they don't make the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC, I would view this season as a major disappointment for the Ravens. So there you go. There's your tiers.
I got an acronym for you on Baltimore, and honestly on San Francisco as well. It's an acronym that has been coined by First Things First legend Chris Broussard. It's what we call SBOB.
Okay.
SBOB. Both of those
Super
teams,
Bowl or
Super
bust.
Bowl or bust. I think those are the only 2 teams. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys, but I think you get to the NFC Championship game, you lose a heartbreaker. That's a good year. Those are the only 2 teams I think we can really call Super Bowl or bust, but I think
For sure.
it's fitting because they're the most 2 dominant teams, and I think we get a rematch of the 2012 Super Bowl if you want that to be a successful year. Why don't you give us, as I wrote in the notes, the highest higher and the lowest lower?
The highest higher, I believe, is going to go to 2 different teams.
Biggest riser for those
teams.
of you that don't get it.
2 different teams. It's going to go the Jags after their win over the Panthers, and the Texans after their win over the Titans. Both of those teams rose up 4 spots, respectively. They were right behind each other last week. So Houston went from 17 to 13. Jacksonville went from 16 to 12. And then I actually, coincidentally, have 2 teams that were the biggest faller that were right next to each other. That would be the Bengals and the Seahawks. Bengals dropped from 12 to 17. Seahawks dropped from 13 to 18, both dropping 5 spots. I think next week I'm going to look at, who started where in week 1.
Yeah,
and,
I think we should do like a year-long change to see
Yeah.
how things moved around.
See what team rose the most over
Yeah.
the year and what team fell the most over the year.
Yeah, and if you want, you should do
think that would be fun.
for every team. We should do a where they started and where they finished. 'Cause I think it'll be interesting.
For sure, to see kind of how they moved, or maybe do we'll
talk it out. Yeah. So, all right.
Anyway.
As I previously told you, great tiers.
Thank you.
I think everything you had.
I think they're
there,
only getting better.
I really
honestly.
I really don't have anything that I saw that I was like, eh. Like I genuinely like all of it, and it's kind of weird because it truly is shaping up to look more like the actual playoff rankings, right? So the Ravens and 49ers are both the 1s, and then the Bills could potentially be the 2 seed.
Yeah, if they win, they'll be the 2 seed in the AFC, which would make sense given where they are.
Yeah. All right. I like it, sir. Good job.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Well, let us move on to our favorite, our combined favorite segment, Hot Takes. I'll give us a start here. We'll kind of just one after the other if you want. I'll do one, you do one.
Yeah.
So my first hot take, the Cleveland Browns should and will sign Joe Flacco to a long-term contract and part ways with Deshaun Watson. Look, I mean, it's no argument. Joe Flacco has changed this offense, and obviously this depends on if he wants to. But this team doesn't look the same with Deshaun Watson, and I think it's very clear that he is not going to be what he was in Houston before he was out for 2 years. So I think if you want to win, you want to have the best shot at that moving forward, you sign a quarterback like Joe Flacco who can lead your team, and then what you can do is kind of have him for 2, maybe 3 years tops, and then you draft a quarterback to learn behind him. Or if you really think DTR or PJ Walker are the answer, they can learn behind him. But I think Joe Flacco, I think that would be a great move for Cleveland.
All right. My hot take is I think the Bills will make the AFC Championship game, meaning that they will beat Miami this week. They will get the 2 seed. They will beat whoever the 7 seed is, and they will beat the Chiefs more than likely in the divisional round. And they will face the Ravens in the AFC Championship game this year.
Okay. I like it. It's kind of funny that that's your first hot take, because my second hot take is almost in direct opposition of that. Not that I don't disagree with you, and I agree that Buffalo is like a scary good team. But let me explain it as well. But the Buffalo Bills making the playoffs, and like especially if they win their division, will be worse for them than if they missed the playoffs. So hear me out. Sean McDermott needs to go. He's not the answer. It's very clear that he's not getting the most out of Josh Allen. He's not the best for that offense. That offense, whenever that offense is firing on all cylinders, it's doing so because they are a dynamic passing threat and they are a good run threat. And I really don't think that they are either of them with Sean McDermott. They have their moments, but they're when have they consistently been that? They haven't. They have a year where they're solid at it, and then they have a year where, like this year, they have not been very good. I mean, they had some good streaks. They put together 4 wins, but as a whole, the Buffalo Bills have not been one of the best teams in the NFL this year until lately. And if they make the playoffs, they win their division, they make the playoffs, and say they lose in round 2 to Kansas City, do you think they're going to fire Sean McDermott? No, because they're going to be like, well, we made the playoffs, we got to the divisional round. Like, that's a good year considering where we started. And I don't think they'll make any coaching changes, and I think they need to. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott. Now, if he goes out there this year and they win the Super Bowl, hey, man, I'll tip my cap. But until then, I'm sticking by it. He's not a Super Bowl winning coach, and I think that if they make the playoffs, they win their division, win a couple games, I don't think they fire him. So I think that'll be worse for them than if they were to miss the playoffs.
Fair enough.
I really like your second hot take.
Wow. I figured you would.
Yes, sir. Hey, Justin, this is really awkward, but you were holding down your mute button right now. Or you're unplugged, one of the two. But, yeah, so this is fun. Anyway, yeah, Sean McDermott, bad coach. We'll get back to Justin's take in just a second.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, cool. Still good?
Yeah, still good. You get too excited there?
A little bit. The Tennessee Titans will upset the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, yeah, we
which
will.
Means whoever wins the Texans and the Colts game, which is played in Indy, so my guess is that Indy's going to win it, will win the AFC South. Jacksonville will lead it all year,
And
choke it against Tennessee like they always do, and the Texans or the Colts will win that division. Hot take.
I like it.
We will find out. We will find out in 6 days.
I like it when they let you cook, Justin.
They let me cook, and cooked a 5-course meal.
Or you burnt the water, and we will find out in 6
Yeah.
days, as you said.
Yeah.
Because knowing my Titans like I do, they are either going to go out there and beat the Jaguars, or the Jaguars are going to beat us 91-3.
Yeah, there's no in between.
Yeah. All right. That was Hot Takes, everybody. Justin, it's been a fun episode. This was a good one. Can't believe that here we are. We're at the end. I mean, we got one more regular season episode next week.
Yeah.
And then after that, man, it'll be playoff time, and the NBA regular season will maybe start to get interesting after that. Not that it's not already.
Maybe.
Let's be honest.
We also got March Madness coming up.
That's true. That'll be fun time as well. We need to make like a rundown bracket challenge and see which one of our brackets does better. So maybe we'll make those and display them on the podcast at some point. But yeah, I think that's all we have today. So
Yep.
Justin, it's been fun, like I said, and everyone listening, thank you guys so much. I know Justin and I have really appreciated all of your support and feedback over the year, and yeah, we look forward to week 18. So make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are available Apple, Google, Spotify, anywhere. Justin is doing something interesting over there. We have a YouTube channel, a TikTok, Instagram. You can find us anywhere. Just search for the Rundown Sports Podcast. You'll find us there. And until next time, I'm Ben, and this is Justin, and we are the Rundown. Thanks so much, and have a great day.